Hi there, tarot lovers, with our card or cards of the day today. So I drew this card again today, the King of Cups, who seems to be with me like a lot recently, and I'm looking a lot into this more emotional part of myself, and I think that's why he's coming up a lot with me. He's the part of us that expresses ourselves out to the world and shares our feelings from the inside. You know, he's that masculine, outward going energy as far as the mature emotions are concerned in our lives, and he's that aspect of our character that is that male that can actually hold space for the emotions that can to go a little bit wild, and the the sea in the background, and the ups and downs, and the swings and the twos and the throws of our emotions. This king can handle, and he came up again, and I'm feeling more powerful in my ability to see my own emotions, to go deep inside and have a look. So I deliberately asked for another card as well, in order to really understand, okay, what is the deeper stories to look at as far as this king's emotions are concerned. And I get this card. So it's one of my most trashed cards, and interestingly, symbolically so the Five of Swords. Take a look at the imagery here if you don't know it already. So one guy seems to be holding two or three swords, and there's three swords on the floor, and there's two guys in the background who are defeated. This seems like the energy of a battle. That has been won and lost, and this is the energy in the mind. This is the energy in our thoughts when we're fixed on the idea that there is a good and a bad and a right and a wrong and a winning and a losing, and this strong duality that makes us strive for one and fear the other. And this good and bad, I want to be good but I don't want to be bad, this fearing and this great big separation that this belief system, in this very strict and rigid way that the mind likes to judge what is right and wrong, good and bad, is a very delicate belief system, because although it serves us on some fronts to feel what's right for us at any one moment, if we hold on to it too tightly, we end up fighting for that righteousness. Then we become self-righteous, and we end up rejecting, putting down, fighting other people that are wrong and not doing what we're doing for whatever reason, and that they should be, and I'll fight for that, So it's not really a win-win situation, really. It's not even a win-lose situation. It's a lose-lose situation, because at the same time as we're fighting something on the outside, we might. This isn't just fighting for ourselves. It's fighting against something else, and this is the big energy here as well. Which means, it's the energy of war. It's the energy of a battle in a way. And in war, nobody really wins. Even the victors don't really win, because there are casualties, and you're just teaching yourself that fighting is really important, and fighting against other people is not really important. This is actually where we're actually losing. Embracing and accepting and feeling compassionate towards, and feeling more connected to life on the outside and other people. That's a victory, but this is not a victory. This is a winning, which is not really a real victory. So when this card is upside down, there is a kind of a denial of this energy, or maybe there is even a suppression of this fighting in a way. And this can mean different things. This can mean sometimes that we're not even fighting and standing up for ourselves enough. One of the characters in here is just bowing his head down in a certain amount of shame. Sometimes we will lose the battle because we're scared to go in it, or we won't even want to fight for our truth, and so we will just give up our sword like that and say, oh, you win, I have my sword. I'm guilty of this. I'm going to dive into a little bit of self-reflection today and look into what this means. How am I denying this fighting story? So I can see in myself it comes up in different ways, and one of them is this. Yeah, sometimes I'll give up the fight before I even want to fight. I don't want to fight. I'd rather not fight, and I'd rather avoid the conflict at all costs and just let go of my truth and not stand up for my truth and let it go and just drop it and give it away. And I've been guilty of that story plenty of times in my life, and I've really found that this is it's worth standing up and holding your sword and fighting sometimes. So that's a little bit of maybe one of the positive things that you can get from this card reversed. And there's another stories too. One of them is sometimes we're not even aware of our own aggressivity, and sometimes we may have an excessive aggressivity, and it may be this passive aggressive story that I know that I've also been guilty of in the past, where we may find that we are manipulating other people into doing things in a passive way, like pretending everything's or pretending we're holier than that when we're really not being very nice at all, and we're trying to win. This is the competition which is behind everything. I grew up in a with 3 brothers and lots of competition, and so I was taught to be competitive, and there's a certain amount of competitivity which is healthy, where you want to win and lose and things like this, and but the real point of being competitive is enjoying the game, not whether you win or lose. The real winners are the ones who enjoy losing. They're the only winners, that don't bow their head in shame when they lose, or they get up and go, wow, that was a great game, fantastic. This is that part of us that just enjoys challenges and things for the growth that they can bring and for the joy that they can bring in our lives. If we're out to win and that's the only way we can succeed, then we've already really lost. Because it's not about getting the results in life that we want. It's not about achieving what it is we think is the most important thing in our lives. In the specific way that we think it is. It's about the growth that all of this will bring to us. And we might not achieve our goals, but we might have experiences that enrich us and enrich our personality incredibly. And that's where this card can teach us a little bit about how to let go of what's right and wrong, because it's not black and white. Our life is not black and white, and really embrace a more healthy type of inner competition where we're not really fighting anything. We're just fighting for being more ourselves and living more in our truth and having more joy and fun in our lives. This card is there's a bit of unresolved conflict in this card like this, so it's also, I'm going to look at that today too, because I know that it's this aggressivity that sometimes comes up. Okay, there's several things here. One of them is where we feel so self-righteous that we'll defend ourselves when we don't need to defend ourselves. And we'll even attack other people when nobody's attacking us. And when somebody just might be questioning us, and we'll feel all defensive because our ego will be challenged. There's a bunch of ego in this card, and it's really important. And I've seen that I've done this before when my ego has been challenged. In a relationship and in intimacy, it's where I'm feeling a little bit fragile for some reason, and my ego starts kicking in and wants to be big and strong, and I'll start defending myself when I know I'm wrong. That's the stupidity of it, and this is all connected to this card. This is all connected to trying to be right, to try to win when you don't have to win, and recognizing that is super important. And there's this repressed aggressivity that sometimes we need to, stand up and fight. And this repressed aggressivity can come out in a little bit of violence when we're over aggressive or when we're unconsciously aggressive to people. And we might even deny it. Oh no, I wasn't being aggressive to you. Yes, you were. Yes, I was. And it's about really recognizing and really being a little bit truthful. So the king coming in with this card is asking us to, bring in a level of inner awareness and honesty that maybe we're not always comfortable at owning up to, but recognize some of these traits. So the other aspect of the unresolved conflict is when we feel like we've been in a battle and we've lost, and yet we've not really forgiven anybody, we're not forgiven ourselves, and we've not really let go. Maybe there's an arrogance which we're not really facing properly inside of us, but this unresolved conflict can bring up grudges, and this inner resistance and feeling bad. It can feel like that we're self-defeating in nature, and at the same time cursing somebody else on the inside, and we're holding a lot of this conflict on the inside, and we're not even owning up to it. We're not working with it. We're not allowing it to see that, hey, there's something to forgive here. There's something to let go of. Forgiveness, I think, is going to be a good practice for these two cards coming up together, as well as introspection and self-honesty. The king isn't unafraid to look at his shadow, and that's kind of rare in us men to be able to look at the shadow openly. But he's fully into that story and fully into diving into what's going on below the surface. So let's do that today. Let's take a little bit of a time out, look at the inner conflicts that we might still be holding on to, and how we might be projecting that on the people in our lives, and see if we are over defensive sometimes, over aggressive sometimes, and seeing where our ego and our arrogance might kick in sometimes, when we let go and give up our sword when we need to pick it up and fight. Stuff like that. Take a look at all these stories and see if we relate to any of them, and have a fantastic day, because hey, we're the King of Cups after all, so let's share some love with the world, baby.